You're watching the One-Eyed Monkey channel, where tech, gadgets, and Bitcoin collide. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about one of the most, and I mean most, important ideas in all of Bitcoin: custody.
You've definitely heard this saying before, right? It's pretty much the golden rule. It's a mantra, it's a warning, and honestly, it's a declaration of freedom all rolled into one. It basically means if you don't personally control the private keys to your Bitcoin, well, you don't really own it. You're just trusting that someone else is going to be nice enough to hold it for you.
You know, for a little while there, it got fashionable to call this idea FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It just seems so much easier to leave your coins on an exchange. And then, bam, FTX happened. It just completely imploded. Millions of people found out in the worst way possible that your assets can literally vanish overnight. That old saying? Yeah, it wasn't FUD. It was the fire alarm that had been ringing the whole time.
So, this brings us right to the core problem, the fundamental choice that every single person who holds Bitcoin has to think about. It's a real balancing act.
This slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got third-party risk. That's the risk that your exchange gets hacked, goes belly up like FTX, or a government decides to freeze or just take your funds. But on the other side, you've got operational risk. That's the risk of being your own bank, losing your keys, messing something up, or not backing up your wallet the right way. You can't just wish risk away. You have to choose which kind of risk you're willing to live with.
Now, I know taking on that operational risk sounds kind of scary. I get it. But this is where Bitcoin's superpower is really unlocked. Let's dig into why.
Holding your own keys gives you a level of protection over your assets that's just almost unheard of. I mean, think about it. If your Bitcoin is in your own custody, there's no central button for a court or a government to push. They can't just send a strongly worded letter to a bank and get your funds. They have to come to you. This is huge, especially for professionals like doctors or dentists who sometimes face ridiculous lawsuits. It's also a game changer. For activists or developers who might get targeted for what they do or believe, it stops their money from being frozen just to shut them up.
And this just perfectly nails the point. What's so amazing is that this line, which is a paraphrase of something former President Barack Obama said, was actually meant as a warning. He was worried about the problems Bitcoin could cause for governments. But for people who believe in Bitcoin, it was the best advertisement you could ever ask for. Yes, that's exactly it. The whole point is giving any individual sovereign control over their own money. It really is like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket.
Okay. So we've covered the why. That's the easy part. But how do you actually do this? Let's say you're just a regular person, or maybe you own a small business. How do you even get started?
Well, the advice is actually pretty straightforward. First things first, you get a hardware wallet. It's this little physical gadget that keeps your keys completely offline and safe. Second, when you set it up, it's going to give you a seed phrase. Think of this as your master key to everything. Third, you back that phrase up on something fireproof, like a little steel plate, not just a piece of paper. And fourth, and this is crucial, you store those backups in different secure places. Maybe one in a safe at home and another in a safe deposit box at a bank. That way, if something happens to one location, you're not totally wiped out.
So, once you've got the basics of a single wallet down and you're feeling comfortable, it might be time to level up your security game. And for that, we're talking about something called multi-sig.
Multi-sig is just short for multi-signature. All it really means is that instead of just one key controlling your money, you need multiple keys to sign off on a transaction. And the whole point of this, to get rid of any single point of failure.
Let's walk through a really common setup, a 2 of 3 multi-sig. It works like this. You create 3 separate keys. You put each one on a different hardware wallet, and yep, it's a good idea to use different brands, just in case there's a weird bug with one of them. You keep these wallets and their backups in 3 totally different secure places. Now here's the magic. To spend any Bitcoin, you need any 2 of those 3 keys. So think about it. If one key gets lost, or stolen, or even destroyed in a fire, your funds are still perfectly safe.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Whoa, this multi-sig thing sounds really complicated. And that's a fair point. But check out this fantastic counterargument. People can learn incredibly complex things when they have a good reason to. And this quote just hits it home perfectly. If human beings can figure out something as profound and complicated as childbirth, we can definitely learn how to manage a list of 24 words securely.
So far, we've mostly been talking about what you or I or a small business might do. But let's shift gears for a second. Let's talk about the really big players.
I mean, you gotta wonder, right? How does a huge, publicly traded company with hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars in Bitcoin manage its keys? They're not just stashing a hardware wallet in the CEO's desk drawer, are they?
Well, for the most part, no. Big companies have to answer to auditors, to regulators, to shareholders. So they usually take the safe route and use what's called a qualified custodian. It's basically a regulated bank that holds the Bitcoin for them. It's a defensive move. It's the easiest way to get a check mark from the big accounting firms.
But a much, much better model is starting to take hold. It's called collaborative custody. This is so smart. It uses that multi-sig security we just talked about, but it combines it with the need for regulatory compliance. So, for example, the company itself might hold one key, and then two totally separate independent custodians each hold another key. And this is the whole shebang right here. In a setup like this, no single person or company has all the power. A rogue employee inside the company can't run off with the money. A single custodian going bust like FTX can't lose the money. To move the assets, they all have to work together. It gives you multiple layers of security and accountability. It's really the best of both worlds.
So, at the end of the day, it all boils down to this one really important question. The entire promise of Bitcoin, its whole reason for existing, is about personal sovereignty and decentralization. The tools are here. They exist for regular people and even giant corporations to take direct control of their own wealth. The only question left is, are we going to step up and embrace that responsibility? Or are we just going to hand our keys back and recreate the same old banking system that Bitcoin was built to replace in the first place? The choice, really, is ours.